There we are. What's good, everybody? Look, man, I know everybody's excited about it. This is overdue. We were just talking about this backstage before the stream went live. That I got a lot of love for Razörfist, man. We always talk about him on the channel. We've appeared on several streams like elsewhere, but it hasn't been like on our individual channels. So finally thought to make this happen. You know what I mean? Love everything about the dude and everything that he's doing. Certainly, as we talk about like culture and trying to kind of be a part of the solution, he's really been kind of leading the charge on a lot of that. In addition to his commentary, so we finally made it happen, and we got my man's Razörfist on the channel. We'll be shooting the shit, man. How you doing?
Godspeed, dude. It's good to hang with you finally. Like I said, I think it'd be great to do the same on my channel sometime or whatever. Oh, yeah. I hardly recognize you without your Scrooge McDuck money ban. What's that? You where's Launchpad McQuack, asshole? Fuck.
Nah, man. No, seriously though, man. I appreciate you coming on, man. But it's I guess that's kind of what we should go right into it. I mean, we both have kind of our own projects, right? That have been, successful. You've been successful. And I love that we got this whole Iron Age thing happening where you're seeing other folks that are like motivated, right? To like just say, fuck it. Yeah, we gripe and complain about properties that we've all known and loved, but maybe they're just symbols of themselves and they're not really, what they once were, maybe whatever you want to call it. But now you're seeing people start to put to action, some sort of, or have a course of action, and be able to show off their creativity. We've seen like with whether it be with crowdfunding and all these sort of independent methods that exist out there, that people, it's far more affordable. It's far more, the means have been far more decentralized than what they had been in the past. So instead of like waiting on other people to like change things, we're in a position to say, you know what, we'll just fucking go and do it.
Exactly. And this is what I said in my original Iron Age Cometh video. If you have to ask the industry for permission, the answer's already no. That's how it goes. I don't think a lot of people realize how much of this is just job security for these people. Yeah, there's some ideologues. I mean, these are coastal commies for a fact, but at the end of the day, I think they throw all that out the window if it meant secure. If tomorrow them taking an oath of allegiance to Pat Buchanan or some shit could forever secure their jobs in the comic industry, bro, they'd have a MAGA hat on and be goose stepping tomorrow. I swear to God. We all know that. It's like at least 90% job security. And I know that, gosh, I worked in a comic store back in the day. I don't know how much of my background you know, but I used to work in a comic store, and the comic store that I worked at was on like a first name basis because it was the biggest comic book store chain in the country. So they were on a first name basis with Dan DiDio. More so Joe Quesada, though, back then, because Joe Quesada was running Marvel at the time. And bro, like their politics are their politics, but once you actually sit down and talk with them, you realize how much of it is just backroom dealing and people trying to protect their spot because there's only so many chairs, right? It's a game of musical chairs. That's what the fuck it is.
Yeah. 100%. Like, I just did a video talking about kind of like the history of comic books and like as far as the more economic medium, we talked about like direct market setup and how, definitely as it started to form and become the industry standard, how, it really, if you just got down to the nitty gritty and really looked at everything, it didn't even fucking make sense economically. But once you start peeling back those layers and you see, whether it be with, let's say, the big two and them pretty much always having a parent company in the modern age, and how, really it almost acted as if it was subsidizing their project. So when you have what we move to right now, which is now, a lot of us Iron Age guys are more so selling directly to customers as opposed to a retailer, as opposed to a distributor or something of that nature. So in the event that shit got upended, I love how you worded as is more job security. I think that's why they fight against our kind of method, because, well, if let's say that became the norm, where do these people, like, what spot do they have? And I don't know if they have one at all, to be completely honest.
They don't. And you can see some of them already. Some of these people are still working for Marvel and DC, and they're already launching their own Indiegogos, right? Dude, they could put their finger in the wind, and just like anybody else, bro, they know exactly what's going on. But it's the politics behind the scenes. I mean, gosh, I don't know if you saw yesterday, um, or maybe the day before, Dan DiDio was interviewed by
Oh yeah, John De La Rose. Yeah,
John
yeah,
De La Rose, and got canceled
yeah.
by all of, by who was it? Like, he got canceled by a bunch of DC artists, a bunch of DC writers. Jamal Igle was the latest
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
And I was like, I was on Side Scrollers the other day. I was like, Jamal, you can't cancel Dan DiDio. He's not one of your books. That's literally where these people are at. They're canceling people while their own books are getting taken off the shelves. How many?
Yeah.
I mean, the thing that the tail of the tape to me is how many books are Marvel and DC even publishing now compared to even 5 years ago, 6 years ago?
Yeah.
Because demand's going to tell you, you're learning this, right?
Yeah.
You're slowly unfurling one title at a time organically as the demand sets out that you should do it. And eventually you'll hit the upper limits of that demand.
Yep.
You'll pull back, maybe add some more. You know, this is how the comic industry used to work, people.
Yeah.
You used to listen to well, hell, that's why the comic store I used to work at was on a first name basis with Joe Quesada and such, because they would actually talk to the owners of the comic stores and be like, hey, how's this selling? Hey, how's that selling? Like, he had his personal number, right?
Yeah.
When Civil War came out, he was literally keeping in touch with the guy who owned the company, like, hey, you know, how's that new issue of whatever doing? And that was how they got a feel for, okay, here's what we should push, here's what we should pull back on. That is long gone, bro. That is long gone. And I think the crazy aspect is the one not many people talk about. It's the complicity of the comic book store owners.
Oh yeah. But we don't talk about that enough. Like that, like, it's funny because we look at, definitely as of late, they're going out of style, right? And they have largely facilitated, I've made this argument before, kind of the status quo it is that we have. That has really been, maybe it was more of a paper tiger or whatever you want to call it, where it was kind of fake propped up and what we thought it was something that it really wasn't. And then as the economics start to really catch up to the industry, you're seeing them realize that, look, comic book stores now can't even exist as comic book stores, not just primarily selling modern new material. Now it has to be games, tabletop stuff. It has to be something else or whatever. In order,
and they better have a manga section that takes up half the damn store, or they're not going to be able to pay the freight. Like, seriously.
No, 100%. You're 100% correct on that. And like I said, they've all been kind of complicit, and now we have this weird version of the industry. I would argue now, which is weird as it's ever been, we have 3 major distributors now, and Diamond, what is it, Penguin Random House, and Lunar. None of those guys are publishing those numbers anymore. Diamond stopped, I think it was like April of last year. So nobody knows shit, like, really, as far as what's other than obviously the store owners who are taking gambles on these books and realizing, oh shit, I can't sell these, right? What do I do?
Dude, it's shades of like 94 with the comic crash, kind of. You remember the story I told? I forget if it was in the Iron Age video or it was another one where I was telling the story of Turok. A lot of people don't know about Turok and how important that was to the comic crash of 94. Valiant Comics had launched a Turok comic. It's actually a pretty decent comic, incidentally, but that was the age of the variant covers. And they wanted incentive covers. Valiant were big on incentive covers. Okay, if you order X number of copies, you get the gold variant. And then if you ordered hundreds of copies, you got this diamond foil cover for Turok Dinosaur Hunter. Keep in mind, this is 94. The Turok game hasn't even come out, folks. Yeah. This is not X-Men #1. This is not Batman Nightfall. This is Turok. They're bringing Turok back after decades of not being because he was a pretty popular comic book back in the 60s and 70s and whatnot. So literally comic stores are taking out second and third mortgages to buy more copies of Turok.
Yeah. And to get that 100 variant.
And this comic comes out and it sells like a Turok comic. It didn't bomb, but it was a Turok comic. It's not fucking X-Men #1. So, dude, I forget what the exact figure is. I cited it in my video when I was doing research, but it was like like 7 out of every 10 comic stores in America closed literally within a year. They were just gone. It's shades of that, bro.
Yeah,
It's
I
100%
agree.
shades of that.
And like the incentive variant thing now is like probably worse as it's ever been. I mean, good luck, man. You go find you can go research it yourself, guys that are in the chat. If you guys go see whatever like number 1, number 2 comic that's coming out right now, this is not including the unannounced variants that will inevitably come later after release. But like at lunch, these guys are pumping out like 20 something variants. It's fucking insane, man. And you know, when we talk about who's complicit as far as the comic book store owners, the fact that they weren't like putting their feet down like, Lou, we gotta fucking stop this, right? Because you know they're just trying to, the publishers are they're trying to get their cut, and they know, look, this is a way to kind of beef up numbers, and that's how you know how bad it is. It's like, despite the fucking incentive variants, despite all that shit, still nobody's saying here's how much we're selling, right? To stores. Nobody's even saying that anymore. They used to have no problem doing that. Even then, right? We couldn't get, I don't want to say those were the most accurate numbers because we don't know how many of them were readers, right? You know, so if you know, speaking to your point, incentive variants, doesn't matter if if they did sell that incentive variant, let's say if it was 1 out of 50 or whatever, and they sold it, and all 50 of those damn books nobody bought, right? Except maybe that one rare variant, it's still considered a sale to them, right? So despite all of that, we don't know shit, which I think speaks to exactly how bad it actually is. And it is shades of what was going down in the 90s. And I made this point in my recent video, because I know, folks got the little rose-tinted, you know, glasses, everybody, it's all good. Comic books has never been better, they say. And which is hilarious. But it was, people forget, man, it was in our lifetime. This is a point that I hammered home. Like it was not that long ago where Marvel was fucking basically bankrupt, right? It took Toy Biz to bail their ass out. Like, but they were done. Like they were fucking, that was not that long ago at all. But you know, people get selective amnesia on stuff like that. And they think, well, they can always thrive. They can always exist as they have. And I just don't know about. And you're going through some of that in the creative process with like a Ghost of the Badlands. We'll show that here in a little bit. But I'd love for you to talk about kind of definitely going that creator own route and how much you think that benefits you far more. I can speak to my experience, but you guys went a similar route. And I'd love for you to let everybody else know, you know, and how that setup, right, between you and George, it benefits y'all economically to put out a book in that format, as opposed to what basically the entire, I guess, the rest of the mainstream publishers are doing.
Yeah, and it's not, you're correct. It's not just the delivery method, it's also the format. You're doing the same thing where you're basically releasing graphic novels. People are calling this ISOM #1, but this is, dude, this is fucking graphic novels, what it is. You're really, look, some people saw this coming from a long way away. One of those people's name was Stan Lee. In the late 70s, early 80s, he was one of the first canaries in the coal mine. Like, he caught a whiff of European comics, not manga so much, but European comics. And he was like, okay, so they release like 1 graphic novel a year, maybe 2, depending on the series. And it's a higher page count, and it's higher quality paper, higher quality art. They take their time, and they're making their nut coming and going. Per capita, France is competitive with Japan as far as its comic book industry, which is insane because Japan is like over twice its population. That's nuts. So that's a way forward for Western comics. And Stan Lee recognized that a long time ago. And that's one of the reasons Epic Comics happened. That was the Marvel imprint that was creator-owned comics, higher page count, better quality, whatever. Jim Shooter ran with that, and it was pretty strong through the 80s into the early 90s. But Marvel never really got behind it. Now you kind of combine this with the crowdfunding method. I'm not a big crowdfunding guy. I'd never done it before. That was more so George Alexopoulos. He's had luck with that with his he did a children's book, Goofberry Pie, which he's going to be doing a second one of. It was actually because of that we wound up being able to do this comic. But I have to say, having seen how well it did, you know, I think it's a good way to go, because you're essentially just selling the comic directly to the people who actually want to get it. When you have intermediaries like Diamond and whatever the fuck who are not really reporting what actual sales are. Marvel and DC aren't reporting actual sales. We're not even getting necessarily, we used to get units shipped to stores, right? That used to be we don't even get that anymore. So you need a feedback system. You need some sort of way. And look, doing an Indiegogo is, okay, this is something people want, or this is something that we need to work on, maybe improve, maybe come back to. And you see this sometimes. Somebody will launch an Indiegogo or a, Kickstarter or whatever, and everyone kind of farts at it. It's not quite ready for prime time. They go back to the drawing board, literally, work on it a little bit, come back maybe with a better pitch, better artwork. Maybe they tighten up the script. Maybe they have a better trailer and presentation. Sometimes that's the only problem.
Absolutely.
It's just the way you marketed it, and boom, suddenly it catches on. And I've seen that happen several times. There's no guarantee of success, but you know what? There's no guarantee of success in mainstream comics. The only difference is everybody sits around huffing their own farts and pretending that everything's successful. They all act like they have nothing to prove when really they have nothing to say.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's what the comic industry is.
That's perfectly put, man. And, I talk about this and how, whether it was what I was doing with in the metal scene, and it's the same thing. I kind of made.
Yeah, you had like a hardcore, kind of
exactly,
like a metalcore band, right?
Yeah, and when I was doing that, it was the same thing. It was like I'm looking at how everybody else is doing it, and I'm like, guys, I'm sorry, this doesn't make any fucking sense. I get it that it's the industry standard. I totally understand that. I can't make this make sense economically, right? So we didn't do it, right? And we had all the success it is that we had. And I look at the comic book industry in the same way. It's like, okay, I understand that everybody's doing it this way, whether it be going through Diamond and not having them handle your distribution and mainly and primarily relying on like previews from stores, buying them or whatever. I get all that. But in the age of the internet, I just couldn't make sense of that. So I just said, fuck it. I just wouldn't do it. I'm not knocking anybody else necessarily, but it didn't make any fucking sense to me. No. So I didn't do it. And here we are. And to me, obviously it made a lot of sense. It made, because it worked out, right? It worked out. Numbers don't lie, I guess. But seriously, like being in a position, we gripe and complain about, or they have, right? It's funny. I guess maybe it is a form of Stockholm syndrome, because everybody understands that there's a economic problem, but everybody's still so protective, right, of that Marvel DC sort of model. So when the hashtag comics broke me, they'll do that. But at the end of the day, when it comes to actually kind of breaking from that traditional model, people start, well, I don't know about that type shit. But the thing that I love the most about it is that whether it be with all the people that worked on the projects, from the creatives, the letterer, and everybody, editor, everybody, and being able to subsidize and pay for the product, no loans, all that good shit, and everybody's eating off of kind of what we're doing here at the Riververse. And of course, we want to keep that momentum. But what I've seen, and I'm pretty sure you've probably seen it as well, as you start to see the money come in, it was like, why aren't more people kind of approaching it this way? Because I know for a fact they might sniff their own farts. They might be getting co-signed, left to right by, I guess, their peers. But y'all not making money like that. Y'all aren't making any fucking money, if at all. If you got paid for the product, you're not making money like that. So this is, to me, is the way of the future. And I think that what people can take from my project and your project is that, look, if you do end up striking gold and it works out, because you bring up a great point in that, look, nobody's owed success. It's not guaranteed, right? But any event that shit does work out, would you not rather be in our position where it's like we kind of control our own destiny? We can
get immediate feedback. That's what it is.
Bingo.
Right? Even if the feedback is negative. What was I forget who said this, but it is true demonstrably in terms of like statistics and what have you. The most successful people have a higher rate of failure.
Bingo.
Because they don't respond to failure the same way as people who aren't successful. People who aren't successful hit failure and they're like, oh shit, I don't want that anymore.
Yep.
That's not going to happen. Well, I have no problem with that. I'll tell 20 dick jokes and 19 will be unfunny. And I don't care. It's the one that's funny, then I'm going to, right? So I don't give a shit. That's always been the way I was wired. Yeah. That's what's great about the direct kind of funding thing and actually being able to go straight to your audience is, dude, if it's shit, you'll find out immediately. It don't matter. You can either make adjustments or whatever right away. I love that. I absolutely love that. So far, Ghost of the Badlands has been really well received, but it's not my first project, right?
Exactly.
Me and George worked previously on the book Death Mask that came out late last year, early this year. And that was where I first got to see his like illustrations in this style, this kind of crosshatchy sort of European / manga. It's very East meets West.
Yeah.
The way that we're
very
working.
unique, man. I love his art, man.
He's kind of like a mangaka. He's got that manga sensibility to him. And I've been showing him more like kind of French comics and Belgian comics and Italian comics and stuff, some of the stuff that I'm influenced by. And I think some of that is rubbed off into the work, and it's become very, very a cool synthesis of both approaches. That's the saddest thing about this. The Western comic industry is festering dog shit, but there's a lot to save there. There's an approach in the West to storytelling and artwork that it would be a shame to see it go away, in my opinion. Luckily, like I said, French comics, Belgian comics, bande dessinée, whatever, they're thriving. They're fine. They got big old comic stores and every walk of life walks in there. And if America takes a hard look at what Japan is doing and what Europe is doing, they will know exactly what they need to do. I think what's preventing them is it's the old boys club. They don't want to. There's too much backroom deal. Like, how wild is it that a masturbatory circle jerk of self-interest, backroom dealing, and complete dedication to wasting everyone's time and money went ahead and named themselves DC? Like, sometimes your enemies just tell you who they are, right?
That's very true. That's very true. I mean, look, and it's like they better get with it, or they're going to be, because I mean, the decline is the decline. That model is not working. They are being propped up. There's been a lot of shaking and moving as of late, with both companies, be it Disney and what it is that they're doing, and what Marvel had been doing even prior to that. And then we know what. Hell, I don't know who the hell owns what is it, Discovery now. It goes from AOL to fucking Warren, and everybody's fucking just passing it around like a hot potato. And I guess, to their benefit, it works because, look, I think they treat it a lot like almost like a loss leader, right? Where it's like, hey,
I call it an IP piggy bank. That's what's happening here.
Yeah, that's where.
I'm a fan of Pulp Heroes, Doc Savage, The Shadow, whatever. We got a preview of what was going to happen to Marvel and DC with those characters, because Condé Nast purchased them in the 50s. And basically ever since, they've just been like, oh, you want to make a Shadow thing? Okay, pay us our licensing fee. We have no incentive to push it. We have no incentive to keep this IP alive. If we can make money off of it, then we're happy to. But if we can't, it'll just sit here in our little IP piggy bank, and we'll never touch it until one day it goes into the public domain. And that's basically what's happened to The Shadow. Mark my words, that's going to happen to Marvel and DC. They are basically just an IP farm for movies, video games, whatever, until one day they lose the rights to the characters. That's literally what's going to happen.
And that's crazy, I mean, to think about, because I would have these conversations with people, and they would be like, maybe it wasn't just maybe comics just can't make money. I'm like, that's just not true. It's just that the way they're doing it is not going to make money. And they're not, like, the publication is not. I don't know what their exact numbers are. They're not making those public, but I'm willing to bet a lot of money as far as what their output is, and how much they're paying everybody that's a part of those projects. When it's all said and done in any given fiscal year, if they are breaking even, you know what I mean, it's barely, right? As far as their actual publication like that. Of course, merchandise and that's where they were kind of, obviously what happened with Marvel. Hell, that's how the rights got split in the first goddamn place, you know what I mean? Between, when Toy Biz got in the market, that was right after Mark Goodman got rid of it. And then you started to see those properties split, where you had like Marvel's creative wing that was doing all the TVs and movies, and then you had the publication guys. And even when that stuff was getting sold around, I think it was it New Earth, or I can't remember who had bought it, Entertainment, and they were like, we don't even want that shit, just give us the shit that we can make movies off of, because really that was all that was fucking profitable, right? For them. So when you're not getting the feedback, going back to the original point, like when you're not able to get that direct feedback to with the artist, or excuse me, the creative people are not able to get that feedback, and they're not the ones in control, from the people that actually want to buy it, you get this shtick where people are making material for each other, and that's what I get out of it. Like,
yeah,
for their peers,
absolutely,
right?
dude.
It's more so, how can I signal, whether it be in virtue or whatever, to this other person that also works in the same industry? It's less about
Yeah.
if the reader wants that shit. It's more about how can I get a pat on the back, and how can we be in this circle jerk saying that we did the greatest thing in the fucking world, despite it not really having any fucking fucking readers. And the thing that gets me about it, and why I'm trying to tell people to pay attention to that, and I know it sounds harsh, but you got to understand, as a businessman or a person that's in trying to publish your own material, that guys, your peers are not your customers, man.
No.
They're not. You know, yes, it's not to say that they don't offer anything creatively.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that you're not selling to them, and what maybe they want, it may be completely different from what your readers want, or your direct customer base. And that, to me, is what matters. So when folks are like trying to get these cosigns from these pros that are around the way and like getting acknowledged by them, I'm like, how useful is that? I don't
Right?
really know. But it doesn't seem like much. Let's just say that it doesn't seem like it's that useful to have some comic pro say, "Oh, that was solid work." But did anybody fucking buy it? Did the reader give a shit?
And worse still, some of these people are at the top of companies now as editors in chief, right? They're not worried. You don't have a Jim Shooter type. You don't even have a Tom DeFalco type. You don't have a person who's just like, what the fuck is selling? Let's do more of that. You don't have, in order to express an idea, it must first be filtered through the pan-coastal commie cringe checklist, purged of any and all wrong think. You get this kind of mollifying, sort of homogenizing effect that happens. That's what's so amazing about this, is they all think they're shockingly unique, and they're all samey as fuck. It's every superhero book feels the same. Like, oh man, one of the canaries in the coal mine, Silver Surfer, who I love. I love Silver Surfer. One of my favorite characters. I think one of the best comics Stan Lee ever did. Love, Bushima and whatever. But Silver Surfer, they took him. He went from a galactic philosopher, tilting quixotically at the windmills of humanity, to he's playing a straight man opposite fucking hipsterella in a polka dot dress in a cosmic buddy cop comic. Like, that's what happened, dude. I love Mike Allred's artwork in that comic, but bro, do pinups. I don't want to read this comic. It's terrible. And it was, dude, it's absolutely emblematic of the approach of modern Marvel. I did a video called The Man Who Murdered Marvel. I think the guy who really caused this whole sort of about face was Mark Waid, to a large degree.
Yeah.
Is what he did on Daredevil and some of the other comics he was doing in the early 20 teens set the editorial direction for Marvel. And of course, Marvel being the market leader, DC followed suit.
Every time.
That's where we're at this point. And where the fuck is Mark Waid? He's fucking up Humanoids Publishing. Ironically, a European publishing house. He's determined. He's killed American comics already. Now he's moving on to Europe.
So fucking sucks, right? But it's funny you mentioned Jim Shooter, man. And obviously, as I aged, I gained more respect for it. And I also got some perspective from guys like, Chuck, Dixon, who, more so obviously being part of the industry, was able to see it kind of from a distance, let's say that, even maybe not directly working with him, but he made the train move, you know what I mean? And people hated it for it, right? Creative people, they got their egos to them, like, hey, how dare a guy make me try to make deadlines? Like, how dare someone actually?
And dude, that was so similar to now, because a lot of those people in the 80s who were bridling at Jim Shooter were just aging hippies.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that's what they were. Yeah. Like, is there anything more insipid than a hippie with a gray ponytail? But that's what we had in the fucking 80s, right? We had that whole genre of human being. And those were the people who hated Jim Shooter, because he was like, hey, that's lovely, but we got to pay the light bill, asshole. Yeah. Let's get a comic out, for Christ's sake. And the people who were able to do that, the more, the people who are a little bit more pragmatic about it, those people wound up excelling. Frank Miller was one of those people. It's funny, people think he's woke, but you get little hints every now and then where he'll drop a statement and you're like, oh, so you're kind of just going along with the program. You're not really like that, right? Like when he made those comments about Occupy Wall Street several years ago. Remember that?
Yeah.
I was like, I was never more disappointed in a human being than when he disavowed those comments. Fuck that shit. You were correct, motherfucker.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, I get it. You know, it comes with a certain level of familiarity. If people, you know, because I guess that's how we grow up, right? We're like, hey, you know, I want to work for Marvel, I want to work for DC. These are comic books I love, yada yada. And I can understand why there's people that still cling to that being the ultimate end game, right? I do think that is starting to change, definitely, as more of us start to see success that's completely detached from them, because that wasn't really a possible thing. Let's just say that, because even when you look at some of those alternatives that started to pop up, you know, in the 90s, right? Like I said, I was doing the research with this past video, and I'm like, is there fucking anybody like that is doing mainstream like American comic books, right? And they don't have a fucking parent company that's subsidizing them. And I'm like, there's hardly fucking any, you know what I mean? And outside of like, you got Dark Horse and you got Image, right? Or Boom, excuse me, Boom, because Dark Horses, they had, I think now somebody else got them now. They had a run, but between Image and Boom Studios, those are the two that are kind of floating around. But you know, you look at those.
Who the hell owns IDW?
Yeah, it's like,
who's the poor bastard?
I don't know. It's like, I know they have like the IDW.
I think IDW own themselves at this point.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. But you know, they have these like investors now, right? Who, whatever the fuck that means, that are trying to clean them up. But you know, you think about all of those various companies, whether it be from Marvel, DC, Image, and Dark Horse, and Boom, and even Valiant, and all these various companies that are floating around. They either all have some like parent company that was kind of subsidizing them, or their main source of like money, right, isn't really their own properties that exist within them, like IDW, right? So you had IDW. Hell, if it weren't for like Last Ronin, if it weren't for a Sonic title or two, those motherfuckers would have been under a long fucking time ago. Because that's the only thing that's goddamn making money for them. But a similar thing could be said about even like the Booms, because like the Power Rangers,
Dynamite was another one. All licensed shit.
All taking someone else's shit and trying to make money off of. And I think that it puts people under this impression that really there's no money in like being able to own your own material and publish. And I'm like, well, there is. It's just that model, it just the way that they're doing it. Yeah, maybe there isn't any fucking money in it. I can't make a legitimate case for it, other than if you're going to treat it like a loss leader. And most independent people can't afford to fucking do that, right? Your books, you're eating off of that. You're eating off the sale of that book or whatever product it is that you're producing. It's not like, hey, I'll put this out, I'll take an L. Maybe if you got money like that, okay, go for it. If you're like, I'll take the loss in hopes that I will succeed later on. But it's very fucking risky. And I think where a lot of people got it wrong for a while there is they were looking at it like, okay, I want to see success in publication, but I'm going to replicate the model of people that don't play by the same fucking rules that I do. And that to me was the economic mistake of a lot of these guys and trying to replicate Marvel, DC, or the traditional distribution model. And I guess you can make the case that putting your shit in a preview at the time that the internet wasn't the main thing, I can maybe understand where, okay, you know, some not perpetually online comic book owner, the only way that they're going to know a comic book exists is if they opened up some fucking catalog, right? And they saw that your comic was there.
And previews, honestly, were more so for the stores.
Exactly.
Because you would have literal store meetings and everyone would sit around and read through previews. Here's the things that are coming that are going to be big. We need to focus on that. We need to order X number of copies. The good comic stores, anyways, used them that way. But that was more retailer side, right?
Yeah, yep.
There's like 15 retailers left. What in the fuck is previews for? Seriously? What are you? Who's this for?
It's not a benefit. It's like there were people that would say, I remember when because we weren't in there, we did our own thing with our own distribution, and yeah, people like, well, the only reason that he would put his stuff in the previews because he knows nobody would buy it. I'm like, bro, Like nobody, look, even if you are one of those poor bastards that still maybe has a fucking pull list from the big guys, if you are still doing that shit, you know what book you want. And you got it probably from the internet, right? That's how you learn. You know exactly, like, who the fuck. All right, maybe there's one or two people that are actually legitimately going and walking in a comic book store and seeing what's on the shelf, right? And saying, okay, I never knew about that, and now I want that. That's not the standard anymore. I think more people know how they're getting their shit, or if they are having a pull list that is from, of course, their local comic book shop. They know what's coming out, when it's dropping, and they're telling their comic book shop to own it. It's not a case of, well, people are trying to get their shit. Well, I guess people that think that's still how people are discovering them, but that's not the norm anymore. And I was having this conversation with kind of Shane Davis about this way back when, about how really the internet became kind of almost a new newsstand, right? If you will, right? It became, because now everybody's kind of glued to they got little mini computers fucking in their hands, right?
Society became agoraphobic, so no one goes past the fucking newsstand anymore, right?
It's true.
Well, you get your news zapped into your brain box. That's how that shit works. They haven't adapted to, like, never mind adapting to 2023. They haven't adapted to 2003.
That is perfectly fucking put, man. And that's why I continuously called it an archaic model, right? It was one of those things where everybody was just doing it, and nobody thought to be like, hey man, technology's kind of caught up here. There's other ways to do it that may be more effective, and nobody changed.
And there were companies that tried to, and people still mock those companies, even though they were 100% right. CrossGen is a good example. CrossGen got on digital comics first. They got on digital comics distribution first. They got on the graphic novel, like collecting everything in trade paperback first, like dedicated. I mean, as soon as X number of issues were done, okay, we released that as a trade paperback. They even did kind of sampler trade paperbacks to get, like, so that you could actually follow several titles at once if you wanted to. They were ahead of the curve on that, right?
Yeah.
They had some other problems on their business side as far as their business model that wound up taking them down, but that company probably would still be around today if they hadn't made those errors, because they were deeply, deeply correct in a way that DC and Marvel were deeply, deeply incorrect.
And they're still doing the same. I mean, really, now the only thing that's different is now it's just not Diamond owning fucking everything, as far as like you get these distribution companies. And a lot of people don't know that, right? The distribution companies, there's a reason why you want to call it a monopoly, right? There's a reason why Diamond had it. It just stumbled across it. It was like you'd have these other distribution companies that would pop up and they'd say, hey, that's ours now. And then that's how they became pretty much the primary distributor for everybody. And that's recently changed. But that's the only thing that's changed, when now you have Penguin Random House and Lunar Distribution. But the model in terms of like the direct market setup, it's still largely the same fucking thing that it had been before. So even when they found their chance, I guess they used the whole 2020 world was fucking crazy then, and they used that as a means to be like, okay, we can finally make an adjustment and break off. But it's still the same setup, and it still doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah, and these one thing you didn't even mention is all these companies, as they get bought by these multimedia conglomerates. I mean, DC was bought by Warner decades ago, right? And Marvel in 97 was bought out, which is, could there be anything more emblematic of how tone deaf modern Marvel is than X-Men 97? It's the year you went bankrupt.
That's a good point.
You're making an X-Men series set in the year you almost went out of fucking business. And we're almost bought by Michael Jackson, by the way. Which, there's an alternate future where Marvel probably thrives because Michael Jackson like, fuck that shit. Spider-Man.
Well, he knew how to make some money, and that's for fucking sure. And that was around the time, like I say, Toy Biz got them. Obviously, in the late night, had it not been for them, they would have fucking with that Pearl Mutter and all those fucking guys. And they're still going and making the same goddamn mistakes, which is quite hilarious. Man, this is a great conversation. Before we like continue on, I do want to talk about Ghosts of Badlands here in a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Matter of fact, let's just do that. I'll get to the super chats after that because I'm pretty sure there's a million people that got things to.
Fuck the masses.
Yeah,
we spend like 40 minutes doing chin-ups on how important the audience is, and then we're like, fuck
we ain't interacting not a goddamn time. That's fucking good.
This is a time and place, bitch.
But Ghost of the Badlands, this was an insanely fucking successful crowdfunding with Indiegogo. So just tell us about it. Just lay it all out there as far as the actual story for maybe the people that are watching don't know much about it, and kind of I guess the state of fulfillment with it and everything.
Yeah, so it was really a fulfillment on two levels. I wanted to do a Western for the first time, and I wanted to do something that had a little bit more to do with my faith, as far as, I was born and raised in the church, father's a pastor. I wanted something that had kind of a hellfire and brimstone sort of vibe to it. Because like modern Christianity is to spiritual sincerity what McDonald's is to haute cuisine, right? Like you get these mega church, like theme park kind of mega church kind of things going on. I find that there's nothing more insipid than a Christian who's accepted by society at large. So I wanted like a Western where there was just this renegade who's like the only real Christian on earth, right? He's like Solomon Kane in the Old West.
Okay.
And he's dispensing divine justice in the wastes of northern Arizona primarily. I wanted to get into this forgotten period of Arizona history. So everyone's heard of Deadwood. Everyone's heard of Tombstone, certainly. But there was a town that was deadlier than both of them, and it was called Canyon Diablo, Arizona. And it was only around for a little while. It was a railroad boom town that just popped up because they were building an extension bridge. Okay. But at one point, they literally were losing like a sheriff a day. Like it was just, it was absolute Gomorrah on earth. So it was the perfect setting. And it burned down a couple of times. So there's kind of the hellish sort of theme going on there anyways. So it's sort of this Old West sort of 30s vigilante kind of. Solomon Kane, The Shadow, sort of that kind of thing. The Spider, Ghost Super Detective was a big influence. Kind of in an Old West setting. It's a Western, but it's in an elemental style, kind of like Pale Rider. Okay. Or, that kind of thing where it's almost like a divine morality play. And so that's really primarily what it is. As far as fulfillment goes, George is rocking and rolling. He's in the inking phase, which, as you can see from these inks, is pretty elaborate. So, it's slightly slow going, but he's over a quarter of the way through.
Oh, beautiful.
So he's rocking and rolling. We're still on target for a winter release, whether it'll be winter of this year or winter early next year. We're still not sure. As we get a little closer to finishing, we'll probably have a better idea. But we're rocking and or rolling on this. So, and I've already got the second volume written, incidentally.
Oh, hell yeah. I was just about to ask, like, kind of what the aspirations are.
Yeah,
as far as future, because I mean, you guys with something that successful, everybody's you're already thinking about kind of the follow up. And that's what I wanted to, like, I guess, try to see where you're at with it, because, it's not often that people see this fucking much success, obviously, on some shit like, especially with this genre, right? Like, it's always risky, you know what I mean, to do stuff like that. And that really does speak to not only the demand for it, but also the fact that, you're on to something here. So, like, as far as, you kind of alluded to that, basically, you're already working on two.
Yeah, and also I think this is kind of toward the end of the year here is where a lot of Westerns are coming out. It feels like the Western is coming back a little bit.
I agree.
It's felt that way for like the last year, but a lot of the Westerns that have been in development are kind of going to be coming out around the same time that our book does. Not by design. That's just the way the cookie crumbled, right? It's when George had available after he finished Gooseberry Pie. Which everyone should check out, by the way. Also has beautiful art, totally different from this style. But if you have kids, it's great. It's a good kind of cute children's book. But that's his previous project. That was very successful. But I'm just blown away by the level of success that we had, especially because I'm totally shit at promoting it. So this was purely word of mouth. I was turning down like promotional podcasts just because I had other shit to do. Like
I don't.
I'm terrible at promoting.
Don't nobody else feel you on that. I feel you on that for sure, man. But no, it does speak to kind of the general enthusiasm, and to me that's what's been missing in comics. I do remember when you guys first launched it, and I would talk about it, and people would be like very stoked on just the conversation around it. And that's what I feel like comics, definitely in the American sense, have been missing. It's like it became almost a chore for a lot of people to just go get, even no matter how big the character was, a book. I say this as one of the guys that were the last standing guys that were still spending. I was the poor bastard still spending hundreds of dollars a week, and going to my local comic book shop, trying to, be in the know. But it was a chore, right? It was less of, oh man, this is fucking awesome. It was more of just, all right, I love these fucking characters. I'm just gonna keep collecting here. So, and I actually read them, so it's I love to see the enthusiasm for especially, people understand that, that you have the superhero kind of element of genre and things that branch away from that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of demand from things not centered around just general cape shit and just other stuff. And even like, we kind of with the introduction of Bloodruth, for example, we kind of enter in this whole kind of fucking fantasy kind of element of things. And there's a fucking demand for that. And this is, you guys showed exactly that. Like, fuck, dude, you made a killing off of this shit, man. I'm glad you guys did there, and I can't wait to see kind of what else you guys got on the horizon. So do you see that, you foresee that being kind of your next project after you guys get this fulfillment out the door and everything, and people start getting their books, just Ghosts of the Badlands too?
It depends on what George wants to do. I know he wants to work on another kid's book, so he might do that real quick while I do a third Night Vale book. But otherwise, I mean, I have the second script all ready to go, so I could pretty much just deliver it to him when this is released. By the way, if you miss this campaign, like, one of the things is this probably could have been twice as successful as it was. I cut it off at the end date because I felt like it was important not to extend it. Like, okay, if you don't get in, like, that's the end date. People needed to be able to trust that that's when it was going to end, not just like keep going back to the wheel.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
So, so I cut it off there because I really wanted to get to work also on, we would have been a month behind if we had waited too. So, that was important. But when the book actually winds up launching, it'll be available through our publisher. So you'll be able to get it on launch day. Don't worry about it, even if you missed, but it'll be a second printing. It'll have a different cover. It won't have the same stuff in it, but you'll get the same story in the same style. You won't miss out completely. You'll just miss out on some of the goodies that were only in the Indiegogo campaign.
That makes sense. Okay. Perfect. Well, you guys will be on the lookout for that, man. And everything that Razörfist is fucking doing, man, because he's goddamn knocking it out the park really with everything. Like I said, we were talking about all super chats. It's been 45 fucking minutes and I ain't said shit. So my apologies on that. So I'm gonna get to some of these. I see 3 new members that popped in. Maybe that was yesterday, but either way, Elvon, Benny, and Prune Juice, I appreciate that. We have James here. It says, when are you doing Ebony and Ivory duet? Says James Burst.
You got you got a captain's hat?
Yeah, maybe we'll figure it out. Which speaks to Dan. Maybe we'll talk about that stuff in a little bit. Talk some metal shit. Dan with a fucking 200 Brazilian says a lot of metal in this panel. Yes, there is a lot of metal. I would love to actually speak with Razörfist here in a little bit, maybe after I go through these, about like the state of the fucking music industry, particularly fucking.
We were both. I've been in several metalcore bands, by the way. I was on one of the bands that I was in was briefly assigned to, because we were talking about the traditional business model of music, bro. At the tail end there, while record companies were dying off, I had a band that was signed to Uprising Records.
Oh shit! Okay,
I think that's the same as Fall Out Boy. They weren't big at the time, but they, I think they were on there too. So anyway, we briefly tried to make that work. Did one tour on the East Coast, and it all went tits up. But yeah, I got a pretty early preview of where the music industry was.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah, for sure. We'll talk about. We have to talk about that, man. We're definitely us floating around the same genre. Bruce with a 10 says definitely looking forward to my copy of Ghosts of the Badlands. Loving this Razörfist stream. Yeah, man. Obviously, it was overdue, man. Love Razörfist Def and everything that he does. We always kind of, talk about each other, but we hadn't had a chance to on our individual streams make this happen. So I'm glad that we can finally do it. Lance with a 5 says, can't wait for Ghosts of the Badlands, Razor, and great on you for working with George and overlooking the fact that he is Greek.
Yeah, he keeps trying to draw plastic over all the furniture in the comic. I don't know what the fuck. Fucking weird.
Iron Age Media, what's up? Says with a 5, already appreciating your making money in comic series. Well, thank you. Book and short fiction publishing is totally transparent compared to comics. Great info. Well, shout out to you, Iron Age Media. Thank you. And yes, for you guys that haven't seen that, it's like fucking one of the longer videos that I've done in a while. It's over 20 minutes. And I talk about, it's part 1, it's a little overview, talking about how to make money in comics and just explaining kind of the process for you guys that don't really know what's going on. I do see my man Jeremy D-Day Cobra is in the chat. What's up, man? I did not miss you, man. I see you. They're showing some love. We got CJ with a 5 says, thank you both for creating a solution. Happy to see focus on comics again and not on edgelord drama stuff like some other people. You both rock. Yeah, we've seen non-ass washers as doing some weird stuff.
I made sure to double wash my ass for today's stream. Just I wanted to let you know my asshole smells like sandalwood.
Good.
Right now. You have no idea.
Good. Well, appreciate that, CJ. Yeah, we're back to talking about comics and everything. We got E. Smith with 3 months says 2 young upstarts, yet already 2 giants of the industry. Proud to support both y'all's campaign. Raise, I'll send you more money when TJ unbans me.
Right.
Iron Age Media with a just became a member, actually. Appreciate that, doing that as well, man. I mean, it's Drunk 3PO. There he is. Hell, the Iron Age with a 5 says, love what is happening, even for us that write kids' books. Speaking of kids' books, as we were talking about George and his project, shout out to Drunk 3PO. I'm not sure if you are still in the chat or if like Jeremy or someone that has an update, if that second chance campaign for his project is still live for you guys. Most of you guys have already got your books with Achromatic Chronicles Blue. If you want to get in on a second chance, all ages book, make sure you go. It is still live. Drunk said yes, it is still live, and I need to give Drunk a mod. Actually, can I do that from here? Let me see if I can do that. I can do it from here. Okay, cool. Well, that guy. Oh no, I fucked it up. I actually blocked him.
No,
my bad.
I said to leave it that way as a troll.
I actually blocked him. All right, hold on. All right, there we go. I made your mod. It's fixed.
Oh, shit. You're gonna have to make more mods. You're gonna have more mods than Starfield by the end of this fucking stream. Fuck.
My bad. Refresh. I fixed it. I promise you, I fixed it. Drug 3. Oh, he's gonna hang that over my head for the rest of my days. Doing that. He said he's gonna make a video about it. I already know he's gonna fucking do that.
Hashtag block 3PO.
My bad, Drunk. No, but seriously, go support my man's. I did fix it. He's here. He's back. He's live. My bad on that. But yes, go. It is still live. I saw Jeremy confirm as well. So be sure to go support our man's Drunk 3PO. There he is. He just put it put a link right there, so you guys go check that out. Appreciate you, Drunk 3PO. Dan Van says he's gonna talk about it forever. I already know he's not gonna let me live it down.
Yes.
I see. Crusader says with a 2, Michael Jackson. Yeah, it's a great quote. Yes. Great quote. MRP became a member. I appreciate that. As well as Shaneth. Appreciate that. It was a pleasure painting Ghosts of the Badlands.
Oh yeah, he did one of the posters as a stretch goal. We unlocked a bunch of guest artists doing posters. He did one. Dominus, the guy who did the covers of my 2 Night Vale books.
Okay.
He did one. We have a big surprise for a guest painter, really famous painter of Western scenes, like outside of comics, like in mainstream culture, is going to be
Okay.
doing one. Haven't announced it yet, but somebody really, really big. And you know, so we got some cool guests doing Ghost of the Badlands pinups, and those will be available as posters a little later. So
Hell yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah. Okay. We also got Major Leader with a 10 says Razor's been responsible for getting a lot of prospective authors off their backsides with his work, myself included. Lots of cool stuff is coming, and I'm hyped for. Yeah, I mean, I would agree that is obvious. Definitely once he was doing those videos, man. I mean, I felt like that kind of lit a fire under a lot of people. It's very motivating, because you know a lot of us it can be a little doom and gloom, right? Because for a while there, you're sitting watching property after property be fucked, and
yeah,
I can understand where people are, you know, kind of in bad spirit, if you will. But there's a lot of creative people that are on our side of the aisle, if that's what you want to call it. And I love Razörfist in that, you know, he's really trying to motivate, giving people perspective. Like, okay, yeah, we sit up here and gripe all day long, but like, let's get to creating. You know what I mean? And we're starting to see a lot of people that are at least giving it a shot. And like I said, there will be another version of whatever it is that we're creating. You're going to see the next Rippaverse per se, and there'll be someone that may be inevitably doing it better and making even more money. And that's what it is that I love to see, because there's no better time than now. In fact, if anything, they're giving you an opening, right?
You realize if your comic gets much more successful, you'll have to start wearing spats and a top hat, right?
Yeah, I got you.
You better have spats picked out, my dude.
I got you. Get a article as well, man. Like
the purple ones, like the Undertaker.
Okay, yeah, I'm all for that. I'm actually 100%. Maybe that'll be a benchmark goal for one of our campaigns. I have no problem rocking one of those shits for sure. All right, what else we got? We got Zinch with a 5 says, great conversation as always, ripping hell to Razor and the Razor Force. Appreciate that. Thank you. What else we got? HTK Bass Play's been there forever, 42 months. I wrote a Western based on old gunfighter ballads. Okay.
Nice. Marty Robbins over here. Fucking
respect it. Respected. 32 flavors of Nick Weiser with a 2 says this panel has more testosterone than Predator 1. He says, appreciate that, Nick.
I think we got on the 2 screens, we got camera negatives.
Yeah, yeah, we do. It works out. David Blackfire, appreciate you becoming a member. All the new members actually. Is Razor gonna write for the Rippaverse studio? Oh, I haven't even suggested that or talked. I'll tell you what, but you know, obviously, I love Razor to death. If at all it becomes one of those things where he's like, hey man, I'm intrigued by it, he's got a fucking guaranteed spot here.
It was cool to see Chuck Dixon jump in on your shit, because I'm a huge Chuck Dixon.
Yeah. Well, we got Chuck doing Alpha Core, but I also have him doing some unannounced stuff that I think Razörfist is going to be really, really into. I haven't told anybody of the genre or what it is that we're doing, but we do have Chuck doing some really, really cool shit that's unannounced that we have of a character actually that started Pencil and Ink this past week. Nice. Those guys are going to haven't announced the artist yet either. So yeah, you guys be on the lookout for there. We got some more because Chuck's, man, he's flexible. He really understands various types of. It's not just the superhero stuff or street level stuff. He has a lot of stuff.
Maybe when the Shadow goes into public domain in the next 2-3 years, maybe we'll put the first non-shitty Shadow comic of the last 40 years out. Maybe that's what we'll do.
Maybe that's the collaborative effort. I'm all for that. I'm all for that. All right, what else we got? We have Marcus Henry with a 2 says Razörfist is a fan of #release to Eric. All right, so this released, I don't know if you know the backstory behind this. I'm gonna explain it to you. So this Eric sketch. So I drew the first. It was me that actually drew the first sketch of Isam's suit, right? And yeah, it's not that good.
It's not good.
It's not that good. I'm not much of a visual artist per se. I'm descriptive, but as far as actually putting pen to pad and actually drawing it out, not that good. It was something that I wanted my concept artist, right, to actually build out. And he did. He is able to make it digestible for other artists like Cliff Richards, who did the artwork, to do some shit. But yeah, it's not that good, and everybody is trying to tie it to different like things. How can we get that released? Because it's shitty, very shitty.
Bro, you should just totally just make like a stick figure drawing and say it's the sketch and put it out there. Like,
it's bad. It's fucking.
Or you could be Rob Liefeld, and when people call you out on your shitty art, you could just trace something.
Yeah. It's an option. That's a fucking option. So yeah, maybe that's what we do. Maybe that's what we do. But we'll see what benchmark it'll be tied to. But yeah, that's the lore of that. Isaac says with a 2, Razörfist sticks probe me right.
Probe you right? Not that kind of stream, buddy. This is not on Kick.
Maybe I know he meant prove. But yeah,
I hope he meant prove.
Probe would yeah, it's not. I don't think that's how we get there.
Is there any way to be probed wrong?
Marcus Henry with a 2 says, I'm here for the release the Eric sketch propaganda. Everybody seems to be there with it. We also have Dylan with a 5 says, so Razor, no Sabaton.
Maybe.
Emperor Creatine with a 5.
Oh, here we go.
Sweet corn is the only thing that makes it through Razor's rear. How do you think he keeps his lovely grand?
Are you gonna sing the song? Are you gonna sing? You ever play Conker's Bad Fur?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. That was such a raunchy ass fucking
man
game, man. Holy shit.
Brutal.
I saw you guys were playing it not too long ago. Yeah. I was like, man, I remember that game being fucking. It's actually seeing you play it reminds me of how like it was far more raunchier than even what I remember.
Oh man, I mean? It was way worse than I thought. Yeah, absolutely. Shit, a freaking sunflower with gigantic honkers. Like what in the and you bounce on them? Like what happened here?
Oh man, that was a raunchy ass fucking game, man. Says favorite crossover so far, says Joel. I appreciate that.
Sweet.
We have Uriah of the House Right with a 2 says free drug 3. I got him banned immediately. He was only banned for maybe 10 seconds at most, but I'm never gonna live that down. And like I think someone, it was that Jeremy said in the chat, D-Day Cobra said he's probably gonna make a video on it, and he's probably correct, because that's the drunk 3PO thing to do. John with a 9 said genuineness, and authenticity are the new gold standard of the Iron Age. This is why you guys succeed and your detractors fail. The Iron Age delivers where the mainstream flounders. Yeah, I mean, look, people are, and rightfully so, paying attention more to where their dollar is going. There used to be a level of mystique with
sorry about that.
No, you're good, dude. Everybody hears my dogs fucking screaming at the top of their lungs doing our streams. But there used to be a day where there was a bit of mystique about like creatives, right? The only way you knew what it is that they felt or how they felt was buried in some fucking magazine or some shit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Now, people are volunteering their positions on Instagram and Twitter and everything else. So, now people, and rightfully so, they're starting to pay more attention to where the dollar's going. So, yeah, authenticity goes a long way. Being genuine goes a long way for people to basically know that they're not supporting a fucking hack. It doesn't necessarily mean that there has to be an agreement on every individual topic. It's more, I just ask that this person doesn't fucking hate me, and I think that's a pretty basic requirement,
right?
Pretty reasonable, So, I think
more than that, like the quality suffers. I did a video called "Hollywood Was Always Red," right, where I talked about how Albert Maltz, who was himself a Marxist, he called this out eons ago in an essay for, what was it called? The New Worker or something like that. Is it socialist newspaper in the freaking 30s or 40s? Yeah. And he basically said commies can't write. He's just correct. Ask Dashiell Hammett after he started banging that horse-faced socialist sea hag, right? That honestly is the problem. It results in his exact phrasing. It's so brilliant. He said, it results in quote unquote shallow writing. Right, where your characters aren't so much characters as they are stand-ins,
of course,
for one thing or another. And I look at the way that I handle I mean, I guess you guys haven't read it yet, but Ghost of the Badlands is handled in such a way that like the character can kind of act out a morality play without being a stand-in for an ideology or a stand-in for some proselytic talking point or whatever. Like there's literally the story itself literally follows the arc of Saul's conversion on the road to Damascus. That's literally what it's literally a biblical parable in the Old West.
Right.
And yet it is not handled in a proselytic way, which is, I honestly, if the roles were reversed and this was made by Marvel, I don't think that would be the case. First off, I don't think it would be based on the Bible, except maybe the Satanic Bible. I don't think so. But yeah, I think it would be just this side of outright propaganda.
Yeah. Most definitely, most definitely. Again, John, man, I see you all the time showing love to us, man. I appreciate you stopping by. Night Shift with a 5 said, "How late am I for this? I've been waiting for this meeting of the kings of epicness for so long." Well, either way, I'm gonna leave this live after the fact, so don't even worry about that. You're gonna be able to see it. And yeah, I hope to. He talked about maybe us going on his channel, and I'd hope to do more of these like this. I think of a lot of people that are in our space because of kind of us having a similar musical background, as well as just a general view. You know what I mean? I do believe that it's a great collaboration. I love to do more stuff in chat, and obviously you guys love it with Razörfist. So the Lord Ottawa too says hashtag drunk 3PO did nothing wrong. I'm already hearing it, man. It was only 10 seconds, man. Young Sykes with a 5 said, "Hell to you, Eric and Razörfist. It's great to see two of my favorite gentlemen get together and talk shop. Thanks for inspiring us to be great. Appreciate you. Love you being here, man." And we got Wyatt with a 2 says, "Have you read Berserk? And what's your opinion?" I don't know if that's for me. Obviously, I've talked about it because I have them all under other people's recommendation. They're all fucking right there. So yeah.
I love black and white manga, and Berserk is very much in that crosshatchy kind of style that I'm a big fan of. I love comics like that, like Fist of the North Star or whatever. Those are my favorite in the manga space. Claymore is kind of like that too. I love that kind of visual style, and I love fantasy, of course.
Yeah.
So my favorite anime of all time is Record of Lodoss War, right? So high fantasy D&D. I love that stuff. It's one of the reasons I like European comics. They have a lot of that kind of stuff.
There you go. ANCAP Gamer, man, it's been a while. 39 months, hadn't been here for a while. Missed the greatness. Hey, man, love to see you. Glad you're stopping by, ANCAP Gamer. Man, one of the guys has been a long time mod for me, man, even back when I first started on Twitch, man. So shout out to ANCAP Gamer, man. Thank you for stopping by. Sheep City, and there he is with a 20. Says, I'm adding that J band to my manga. Thank you for that bit of content aside. If the mainstream burns, ignore them and keep building your own empire. They don't need us to help them in their careers. Hell, the Iron Age. Well, yeah, I mean, look, that's been my approach. It's like, I know people, for whatever reason, these retards like to think that I spent, I don't know, 300 fucking thousand of my own dollars to try to build the Ripperverse to fucking own the libs or own fucking Marvel or whatever. It's like, first of all, that's
you didn't.
Oh, yeah, right. That was an accident, right? But no, like, the way that I see it, it was, I wanted to be a part of the solution, and whatever those idiots are going to do over there, they're going to do to themselves. It's not going to be because I fucking did anything to them, or I try to take them down or something like that. They did that to themselves through their own moronic policies. Maybe it is because they're ideologues, whatever the reason may be. But that's on them. That's not anything that I have to help them out with.
It's like when people are always saying, who's going to come along and supplant YouTube? And it's like, you guys aren't getting Rumble doesn't have to succeed. Vimeo doesn't have to succeed in order for YouTube to fail.
Yeah.
That's going to happen independent of it. Almost, right? If they do it to themselves. And very much the same thing is happening in Marvel and DC. Speaking of loss leaders, like the biggest loss leader on the planet is YouTube.
Yeah, that's true. That's very, very true. Lance with a 5 says, I'm an aspiring voice actor that's recently become part of an entertainment-focused game dev group. More on that once progress is made up the irons. Yeah, that we know that industry needs it as well.
It does. I'm so excited for hearing little rumblings of Iron Age kind of people kind of swept up in the spirit of the Iron Age jumping into games.
That's huge,
dude. Man. That's going to be so exciting when we start seeing Iron Age tabletop games and Iron Age video games.
It's going to be massive. I think that's important. I think that's going to be a very important wing, if you will, of whatever it is that we're doing, because that industry in itself, it dominates. You know what I mean? It's like that's the. It's not so much as much movies. Not saying that movies and TVs aren't relevant. It's just more so like, you know what, I don't know how many billions of dollars gaming's raking in these days, but it's a fucking lot of them. You know what I mean?
And it's getting cheap. They're getting cheaper and cheaper to make thanks to dev
exactly.
tools.
Yep,
You know,
yep, yep.
you'll get free dev kits and things. Now, sometimes those have trade-offs, but you can, with smaller teams than ever, you can release a more professional product than ever. So if you're out there and you're like, I want to make a game, man, you may have everything you need right now. You might just need to coordinate with a small handful of other people and get that rolling. And of course, a lot of our communities have Discords. A lot of them, you know, we're all over social media. There's no shortage of ways to connect with other people who are inspired by the spirit of the Iron Age. And I'm excited at that prospect. People have already reached out like, I'd like to make a Ghost of the Badlands short film or this or that.
Yeah.
Just hearing that is like incredibly inspiring.
Yeah, most definitely, man. And I'm right there with you. It's awesome to see. And yeah, there's so much talent. That's another thing that's so cool about this. I mean, there's just so much talent on people that want to see kind of this Iron Age, and seeing there's various folks that have various talents be able to link up with other people to kind of make this idea come into fruition. You know what I mean? Hell, even when we had, like, for example, that fan art contest last year, not this past year, but this the last year's fan art contest, and you would see people. I would hear about people being hired from projects, right? From that, right? Being a fan art submission. And they're like, well, that's an artist. I like that person's art. And they would connect with them. And now they got their own thing that they're doing. Like, I fucking love to see that shit, man. That's incredible, man.
May or may not have a project like that coming up for the Razörfist pretty soon here. So
there you go. There you go. All right, where am I at? Right here, Mr. Scruffles with a 10 says, hey, Razörfist, remind us what katana means.
It's a Japanese sword. You ever watch that movie?
What is that?
Samurai Cop, bro. Fucking Samurai Cop. You gotta watch this movie. It's a masterpiece.
Okay.
It's it's a piece of something.
Is it one of those like bad good movies?
Oh yes, 80. It leaks 80s from every pore.
Okay, one of those. Okay. Damon Blackfire with a 5 says, congrats on all your success, both of you guys. So many people talked about putting out alt art for so long. Glad to see more and more of it out now. Gotcha, man. Yeah, that's what it's about. That's what it's about. Ty Salters with a 5 says, I'm trying to learn Unreal Engine, hoping to make a game. Also, have you heard of Action Park? I haven't. They had to buy the town ambulances for injuries. I'm not familiar with that at all. It's news to me. But yeah, I am seeing people dabble in Unreal and other kind of engines that exist out there to try to create cool stuff. And you know, more power to you. Isaac says bork for sticks. Doggo says yes. So I guess he's saying Cicero was agreeing with him. Eric D. June, who is my nemesis, says with a 5, it is I, and I came here to hate and to say that smelly fat boy wasn't my minion. I assure you, all of my minions are mostly well groomed. Have a bad day. It's good to as a respectable nemesis of mine that will own up to the fact that the smelly guy was not his.
He looks familiar somehow. I don't know what.
Yeah, I know, man. This guy, yeah, man. Just one of my nemesis looks very, very, very.
I like how you've already got a beard and mustache, and he added a mustache anyways. Like, it wasn't enough.
It's creative. That's creative. I love it. Otaku with a 5 says, question for you both. What's better, a characters that's an archetype to be aspired to, or one more human to be related to? That's an interesting question. I guess I'll go first. I mean, I've dabbled kind of in both of those concepts. I don't like the idea of like writing just like myself in the fucking story. Like, that's not anything that I would ever do by any means. But I do like the idea, of a character being more, someone that people aspire to be in terms of their core personality traits. I think that's been a core part of storytelling. I think the differentiation from what we've had previous years and what's going on now is that now people are trying to present themselves as if they are the hero, and it's so fucking obvious that it's just that character is just fucking them. It's a little bit of narcissism involved in that. I'll let Razörfist kind of give his approach as well.
Yeah, or the DeviantArt fanfic characters that are getting inserted. That happened in Ninja Turtles with
Oh yeah.
the trans artist slash writer who had this fanfic female Ninja Turtle and literally inserted the character. And the whole book, that wouldn't have been a problem if it was like a one-off or something, but the whole book was now about that character for the next like 30 issues. And that person, I think, just left the book or got kind of quit, fired, whatever happened
one
there.
of those.
I like to take both approaches.
Yeah.
I think, look, the way that I'm writing The Ghost of the Badlands is very much in an old pulp style. And one of the things I love about early pulp characters who precede superheroes, right? So the DNA of superheroes is all wrapped up in all that, is that they were allowed to be these remote, kind of unearthly, like you can't quite reach out and touch them sort of characters. They're almost like a Greek chorus communicating the morality of the story in a way. So the way that Walter Gibson, the creator of The Shadow, formed his stories is he would have what's called a surrogate hero or a proxy hero, where the main hero, the Ghost of the Badlands, the Democrat voter of the Badlands, is he's not that dead, but he gets to stand at some remove and be the guy who ruins everyone's day when they're about to win, right? When the bad guys are about to win, he's the guy who gets to swoop in. You don't have to know who he is, you don't have to know what his motivations are, because you instead have a proxy hero who's out front, who's much more human and flawed. And we follow that character, kind of a outlaw turned gunslinger who's become a missionary of the ghost, who sort of, he's paid a price for his sins. He's lost an arm in the bargain. Now he's a one-armed gunfighter, right? He's like uniquely vulnerable, but he's part of this network of kind of missionaries. So they get to be the human element out front, the more relatable element. So in my opinion, it's the best of both worlds. I love the way Walter Gibson wrote that in his stories. I'm trying to emulate that and kind of modernize it at the same time. So if that works, let me know, people. I'm pleased with the end result, but I'm really eager to hear people's feedback.
Absolutely. The Copper Owl with 82 says, tell TG his recent degenerate adventure was great.
I don't know what that means.
I Drive Process with 10 released a Eric sketch or we murder your server hamsters. Oh, we're talking about my server hamsters for our website. We have upgraded mutant hamsters now. I do not think you guys are going to crash the site for a third campaign in a row.
Right.
And I'm feeling very confident about it because of my Guatemalan steroid hamsters that we now have employed.
Well, they're importing more by the day.
That says maybe that's how I got them, right?
Yeah, Biden is the gift that keeps on gaffing.
Green-haired anti-liberal, what's up? Says 3 months, Hell the Iron Age. Can't wait for Alpha Koi, Yaira, and Ghost. Also, have you been? Have you seen the Island in the Stars trailer? It's an Indiegogo. No, I haven't seen.
Yeah,
that.
it's so Tom Conkle is kind of an independent filmmaker, sort of in the Iron Age space, and his stuff is awesome. He's actually working with he did Trouble Is My Business, which is a film noir in full black and white. It's magnificent. He wrote and directed and starred in it, and that won some independent film awards and stuff, and it was awesome. And now he's going to be making basically a space opera, Island in the Stars. He's working with Vernon fucking Wells, right, of Mad Max fame, and Bennett from Commando. So yeah, he's going to let off his theme.
Look at that
in this fucking movie. So yeah, that's I think up on Indiegogo right now.
I'm gonna check that out. I appreciate that boost there, green-haired and liberal, who is she's done 2 cosplays so far of Rippaverse characters. If you guys haven't seen, I don't know if her video is out. I haven't seen it. If it is, of her, she said she was gonna work on it, of her doing Ingrid. That was a recent one that she did of Alpha Core, which again, that hopefully I think we can maybe launch that campaign this month. We'll see. But she also did one of the first Yaira cosplays, which everybody's excited for that. So big shout out to green-haired and liberal. Y'all follow her. She does have a video about that whole process. Onishiro with a 5 says, proud of both of you and always great to see y'all collab. I believe you guys have the best mentality about fixing things by providing good alternatives, man. Well, yeah, big shout out. And like I said, I mean, him and I see eye to eye on a lot. Razörfist and I, man. And like I said, it's good. It's overdue. It's overdue. Snowman with a 5 says, check out Aaron Alexander's Ronin for the Iron Age tabletop retro future, game set in Chicago. Well, that's
cool.
That's interesting. The Ultimate Kahuna with a 5. Favorite new recent metal singer. Mine is Giannis Papadopoulos. Also, love both of your work. I hope my YouTube and art will be on level with you soon. Favorite? Oh man, that's tough for me.
New metal singer,
like newer, because it's not like a whole lot of just newer cats that I would.
Yeah,
that I'm
he's
just
not
like,
really. I mean, yeah, he's kind of newish, but Eric Grunwald, who actually he's so fucking good. He's from the band Heat, and then he did New Horizon. And then he's so fucking good that he wound up getting recruited for Skid Row. He's now the singer of Skid Row. So he's making bank now. I'm happy for him, but it sucks because he left his other awesome bands.
Yeah.
But that'd probably be it.
I'm trying to think newer. Like I will give you this. It's more, that's more in the post, more post hardcore stuff. But he has floated around that. And this is not new for people that have been listening to like definitely during that whole metalcore and post-hardcore boom with like Emma Rosa and shit. But to me, say what you will about flaws as a human being. I wish I could ever get a chance to just sit down and talk with him, because to me, he has one of the most phenomenal voices in our space. His name's Johnny Craig. This guy can fucking out sing just about fucking anybody. He's not new. Again, he's been around for a while, but that's about as new as I can fucking get, because like I said, I'm not listening to a whole lot of just really, really new cats. Okay, where am I at? Here we have Opinionated Junkie says, with 2, Razor, is your look sort of based off of Bret Hart?
I mean, it's a compliment.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Dude, Chick's panties disintegrated around Bret Hart. I appreciate it, but no, it's not. It's because I reviewed the movie Cobra for my first video. And that wore the aviators for that, obviously, because he's got aviators like surgically grafted to his face for that whole fucking movie. So, and then I took them off for a couple of videos, and people were like, "Where's the aviators?" I put them back on. Everyone was like, "Why are you wearing aviators?" I took them off. Right? It went back and forth, a ping pong back and forth like that, and finally I just left them on. A couple of days ago, I did a rant without them on because I forgot I didn't have them on. When I was recording it, but it was a good take, so I left it.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, it's like me when I don't wear my hat, sometimes, and people are like, "Oh, yeah, it's hair." It's like, yeah, I do. I just like hats, man.
People just assume baldness when you wear a hat all the time. They just assume it.
Mr. Scruffles with a 5 says, if you want Iron Age games, the boom of shooters like Dusk or Brutal Fate maybe what you want. Indie devs bringing testosterone back in the first-person shooter games. Okay, I love it. We need it. We need it.
New game, Witchfire.
I haven't seen it.
Kind of cool. Yeah, get kind of a cool kind of boomer shooter sort of thing.
Okay. Joseph the Gamer with a 5 is a high ribbon fist. Are there any games you two are looking forward to? Not really. I said that it was a couple of months ago. I think it's called Atlas Fallen, something like that. That came out as like a cooperative kind of action RPG. I am going to play that with Napa at some point on stream. But I haven't been. I mean, when I got my head buried in the Ripperverse stuff over the last couple of months with the fulfillment, I have no idea what the fuck is even about to drop. So I don't know if you got anything you're looking forward to.
Yeah, honestly, there's not a ton of stuff that I'm like super looking forward to. The new Mech Warrior Clans thing that's supposed to come out. I guess that would be one thing. At some point, they'll do a sequel to Kingdom Come Deliverance. I know they've been working on it for a while. Kingdom Come Deliverance was one of the best games of the last several years. Just unbelievable game. It basically put Skyrim to shame. It beat Skyrim at its own game. And The Witcher, frankly, too. It was just incredible. A open world RPG that was not fantasy. It was just set in the Middle Ages.
Okay.
Fucking love it. It was incredible. I'm hoping they announce something with regard to that. I'm sure they've been working on it this whole fucking time.
Okay. Yeah, Joe Biden himself stops by, says, make Arizona and Texas blue again.
Right.
Emperor Creatine with a 2 says execute order P90X.
Yes.
Emperor Creatine. Tricky with a 10 says mutant hamsters are gonna keep us from overloading the servers for Alpha Core, huh? Challenge accepted. Hell, the Iron Age. Yeah, we're gonna be doing our thing, and trust me, my mutant hamsters are gonna take care of our servers. By the way, speaking of, someone just no, that's actually Brandon. He just mentioned that the Rippaverse hoodies are going to be here Thursday. So the guys that pre-ordered this past month pre-ordered the Rippaverse hoodie. Those are going to make their way to our warehouse on Thursday. So we're going to start getting those sent out as well. So if you have not got your hoodie, we still have plenty that you're going to be able to get. You can go ahead and get it over at rippaverse.com. I just got a message from Brandon about that. Cyberbully with a 15. I have no idea what that currency is. Says, thank your lucky stars every day. You're not David Pacman.
I fall to my knees and face Mecca every single day.
Igor, what's up? Says, who has the longest hair in the Iron Age? Dan Vass can chime in. Great stuff from you all. I'm friends with George. Glad you're working together. Says Igor, who is our lead illustrator with our random graphics and everything we do for the Rippaverse. So shout out to Igor, which kind of brings me to our point. We talked about Dan and all this stuff. I don't know what the fuck's going on with metal these days.
I know what's going on with metal media.
Yeah.
I noticed metal media
is taking their shots at you. They've taken their shots at fucking me. They're taking their shots at my good buddy. Of course, a million different times. They can't stand Phil from All That Remains.
Oh yeah.
They fucking hate us, and we know exactly fucking why. And I don't know when you started to. I don't know if it was, and I say this as a guy that obviously mostly floated around the core element of the metal shit as well. And was that what kind of injected the fucking leftism, you know what I mean, into kind of this metal and metal media? Because they're all fucking cucked as far as the media shit. I would love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, I noticed more and more when you had like metal cucks and fucking Blathermouth and Brave Words and Chuddy Knuckles and all these terrible websites and publications that all kind of espouse the same talking points. I mean, and this has been happening a long time. I remember when Iced Earth, John Schaefer's a big one they love to cancel now. The guitarist and band leader of Iced Earth, because he was involved in January 6th. He wound up being picked up by the FBI and got out, and nobody knows where he is now, right? I remember when he came out with the Glorious Burden album, which had a theme of like soldiers basically throughout history. That was the whole theme of the album. And because of that, it opened with the Star Spangled Banner and a song called Declaration Day about the American Revolution. This is like 2003-4. This is right after 9/11. And I think Brave Words and Bloody Knuckles is based out of Canada. Their politics certainly are. And so they basically said, we will never interview John Schaefer or review a single Iced Earth album ever again, because this is jingoism, right? This is bigotry and American supremacy. And like, dude, this was like 2003. So this has been happening a long time. The media's always been out of step with the audience. And it's crazy too, because if you took a survey of the metal audience, it's probably more so right of center than
I would agree.
else.
I would agree with that 100%. Like I said, maybe it floats a little different once you start getting into the more punk shit, which again, even considering those origins, it's kind of weird that
punk was invented by Johnny Ramone.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's even weird that it's funny because if you talk to these like guys that generally work for those media groups, they insist that basically they own this shit. Like Leftism owns punk. Leftism owns fucking metal. It's always been that way.
They insist that
is historical.
Yeah, they insist that in every entertainment space, though.
True.
That's really what it is. It's that Gramscian kind of cultural revolution. If we just seize the institutions, then we don't have to worry so much about changing hearts and minds. We get to presume that we're on top and basically declare to all the underlings beneath us that if they're not, if their ideology doesn't conform to ours, then they're not part of the club.
Right.
That's really what it is. And I think one of the reasons metal was a target was because there was kind of this, you know, family of metal kind of thing, this kind of vibe about it. Go listen to any given Manowar song, right? Like Brothers of Metal and things like that, right? Like it was all about it's heavy metal versus the world, and we're all brothers, and this is a brotherhood of metal. And you go to, I was lucky enough to go to Wacken, the metal festival in 2002, I think. And dude, all the bands emphasized that. It was a big kind of vibe. You look at it from like a cultural revolutionary's perspective, right? Okay, there's all these people who already kind of belong to this club. If we just take kind of leadership of the club, then we get all these people. Kind of how they look at it. I honestly think that's what it is, but it's mostly on the media side. I don't think it's on the audience side. I think when push comes to shove, most metal fans want to be left the fuck alone, and that doesn't really conform to statism or socialism, really.
True. No, I would not at all disagree, and I would think it would go against. I mean, me and Dan Vask, we've talked about this. You know, like it kind of goes, just the general concept of socialistic line of thinking, kind of to me at least, goes against what metal to me is fucking supposed to even be about. So it is fucking sad to see these fucking weirdos, and any given time that you do get someone that is, you know, performing in the genre, right, and that is against the grain, at least according to them. Like, again, namely, every day fucking communists are at fucking Phil's head for saying some shit that pissed them off, because you know, he's one of the guys that are in metalcore that doesn't give a fuck, and he wears it on his sleeve like, I'm not a fucking leftist.
And he's more available on social media than some of the other prominent conservatives. I remember Blackie Lawless. Oh, dude, Blackie Lawless went off in the last like 4 election cycles. He's been incredibly vocal. Alice Cooper just got canceled recently for making some comments about, you know, trans story hour and how children are being propagandized. And this is not, look, even Rob Halford, who I won't judge his faith. I don't know how he reconciles that with the homosexuality. Maybe it's something he doesn't like practice. I won't judge from a distance. I don't really know. I'm just glad he's seeking, if nothing else. But politically, he's a little more on the conservative side. I remember when Chick-fil-A was getting canceled for being basically just being Christian, right? The gay and lesbian groups were claiming that Chick-fil-A were anti-homosexual. Rob Halford came out and defended them. He came out and released a public statement like, no, they're not anti-gay. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. They're Christian. Just to assume someone is anti-gay because they're Christian is wrong. And of course, as a guy who's, you know, both gay and attempting to reconcile that with his faith, I imagine it carried a little bit more weight. But yeah, you see this all the time. It's really, they want to present what's the quote? I forget who came out with this, but it's Marxism always marries truth to a lie. That's really what happens.
Like they speak it into existence.
Yes. They always take something that's halfway true and then they finish the rest of it with utter bullshit.
Yeah. And then at that point it becomes the gaslight of hey, it was always this way. It was always this way. It's like just so many lies that, I mean, we see that, hell, even going back to our last conversation. I mean, you've done videos on this. I did a video on it about this whole April was always black thing. Or originally, it's not true. Like, it's verifiably false, but it doesn't stop people from repeating it. You know what I mean? That's what it was, right? So because of whatever, you know, thing that they found buried in some magazine article of someone, and
that's the point. Their point is, and Gramsci talks about this, it's important, I think, to read the notebooks that Pete Buttigieg's dad translated of Antonio Gramsci, because he basically makes clear what the tactic is here. It's not to persuade. It's to get battle lines drawn right and left, so that Marxism can come in, destabilize, and take over the institutions while everyone's distracted. That's the whole point. So the lie doesn't matter. They do not care about truth. It's all about instigation. It's all about getting people perpetually locked in this battle. And you know, you do have to call out the untruth and move on. I think that's important.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And speaking of our conversation, we got my man's Dan says, what happened to metal is that it became a community when it was originally anti-community. A group of people who didn't want to belong turned into losers in need of acceptance and belong. Well, yeah, that's what happened to the cucked guys that are going around pretending as if they are metal, for sure. And that's exactly what it is. And it's like this need to be accepted has them now virtue signaling, and I just cringe every time I hear some fucking guy that, even if it was punk, you know what I mean, coming out having the towing the line and saying some fucking generic safe ass political position, right? That's the only position that they'll dare to take publicly, is the one that's basically lockstep with whatever it's regurgitating at the time.
Yeah, at this point, it's rage more or less in perfect tandem with the machine.
Yeah, yeah, essentially. And it's safe, and it makes them feel that way. You know, I remember who was it? What metal magazine was it that quoted me after, you know, because who was it? It was Straight from the Path, right? They made that fucking Good Night All Right song, right? And I said fucking it was corny or whatever I said that it was. And of course they quoted me as if, oh, look at Eric July, he's fucking, you know, saying this shit, because I'm like, bro, that was the safest goddamn position like they took at the time. And it's like I'm sitting like watching the whole and stuff. And I was during the Bernie days, right? So you had all these fucking bands who, you know, wear the little stupid ass fucking Bernie shirts, you know, while they're doing their fucking shows and shit. And I was the one guy that was like in the core scene saying like, this, you motherfuckers have the same goddamn position. It's safe. You're not fist in the air anti-establishment. It's just a fucking safe position, bro.
Look at dude, you want to see an unsafe position? Primal Fear, with a major record contract, just came out with a new album. The lead single was a song called Cancel Culture that just shits on Marxist cultural revolutionaries. Good. And these guys have been out there. They're extremely visible. They are mainstays of the European festival scene. These guys are at Wacken every fucking year.
Good.
These guys have a lot to lose. And they're like, no, you know what? Not so much. Fuck you.
Fuck them. And to me, like I say, that's metal as fuck, man. Like that's what it was about. I mean, definitely, you know, seeing these guys who would look at it like, okay, this kind of hive mind thinking is antithetical to, at least, again, that's how I see it, to what this genre is supposed to be about. I got my first win. This was like what, 2011, pretty people that knew me back when I was on Fire from the Guys. Whenever we put out that song, and I wrote a song, it's called The Capitalist, right? That was the first time that I got fucking like real backlash, right? Because I was like, you know, the song is what it's called, right? You know what I mean? Like The Capitalist, where I'm fucking screaming at the goddamn top of my lungs, talking about like basically that capitalism per se. And I remember fucking, for the first time, at least in my experience as a lead vocalist, like fucking experience people being like, what the fuck, you can't do that shit. And I'm like, what do you mean I fucking can't do that shit? Like what the fuck do you mean I can't put out a song like that?
Metalcore used to have all kinds of like, no, I mean, look, the metalcore genre itself is like, a lot of those early bands in metalcore were Christian, conservative. One of my favorite bands to this very day is a band called Zao. They were one of the first bands in that genre. And some of the early statements that they made in there, it was like Earth Crisis. It was like Earth Crisis, but Christian, right? They were just super. And by any reasonable metrics, some of the statements they made would be risible today. Right? This is, dude, you should be able to say whatever you want, but this is the thing, you get lockstep now. He's correct with that community shit, where it's like you have to be part of this. And so if they position themselves at the top, they get to kind of gain what everybody believes, or at least that's what they think. I don't think it works that way in practice. It's more about appearances than anything.
Oh yeah, well, that's what it is. It's optics, right? And for some people, it's not worth it to get like some level of backlash from taking a position that may be more unpopular towards the people that are like media, right? Mm-hmm. Who would, of course, in the event that you say that, they're going to feel some kind of way. They're going to write some stupid hit piece, you know, about you. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. And I guess they fear that backlash that they get from that is just not worth it. But I could empathize with that, you know, if they weren't going out to take the opposite damn position, right? Because it's popular and it's lockstep in it, like saying, hey, look at me. I am willing to take a political position publicly and use this platform this genre has given me, but it's only when it aligns with the authoritarian left, right? Yep. And like, again, to me, that's just fucking to see these fucking guys, to me, when during that whole wave, definitely in like the mid 2010s, and watching these fucking Bernie bros sit up there and try to fist in the air like all this shit. I'm like, what in the fuck are y'all like?
Oh yeah, dude, I remember I went to a Dillinger Escape Plan show.
Oh, there you go. Those fucking
in like fucking 05 or 6 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I remember walking up there, and of course, I think this would have been around the time of the 04 election. And they had a booth set up, and right next to it was Rock the Vote.
Yeah. Of course.
And it's like Rock the Vote was such a thinly veiled leftist op, right? Like it was, we're just getting kids to register, but it's 100% one-sided, right?
Yeah.
I remember vividly getting up to that booth and like, look, I was already in talk radio at the time. Like I was already really well set in my political beliefs. And I just remember visibly sneering at the Rock the Vote booth when I saw it. Cause it was all like, they had like John Kerry shirts and all kinds of like, it was just transparent, motherfucker.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Watching these fucking weirdos, man, it was a sight to behold, man. I learned a lot going through the 2010s doing that scene and watching people get fucking mad at me. But, you know, to the point, you know, obviously, you know, we had the #1 fucking alternative new fucking artist, #2 heat seeker album. So there was a fucking audience for it at the end of the day, right? No matter what it was that people were saying about the band, calling us uber right wing or whatever, it didn't fucking, nobody gave a shit, right? About any of that. Because at the end of the day, I think the audience responded to the fact that, we were unapologetically, at least I was, and me and Alex, the other clean vocalist, were like, look, we are who the fuck we are, right? So it was funny. I remember being on some of these past tours that we were on. It was right when Vanna were about to hang it up, and we were actually on their farewell tour, and it was funny because obviously they're fucking, leftists, and it was like, that was what it was. And you hear me fucking being like between songs, everybody's tuning their guitars. And I'm like, basically saying like, if you think that like Bernie's your savior or whatever fucking shit, you have no fucking idea what's going on. And watching these fucking kids look at me that are like, what the fuck, he just said that? You're like, you goddamn right, I fucking just said it. And we're gonna watch this bitch, And to me, that's what metal is about. You know what I mean? And it's funny. I see someone in the chat brought up like For Today talking about Christian bands, obviously huge influence on us as far as the metalcore, and they held it down, but they used to get a lot of shit, right? For Today.
Oh man, a ton of those bands, Norma Jean.
Yeah, Norma Jean. Oh hell yeah. That was a genre, was it not? Like metalcore was like basically you had I guess there's more post-hardcore, but you did have the underos.
Oh no, they were like, dude, in the beginning they were like black, just a side of black metal.
Well, before Spencer joined, definitely back then, because he ended up who was it that he's the head of Maylene and the Sons of Disaster. I believe he was under oath, if I'm not mistaken, his first vocalist.
Oh, Dallas.
Got in a crazy accident. I think he's okay, and I think they're back at it now. But yeah, it was a lot of those guys, right? During that era of metalcore per se, that were like unapologetically fucking Christian. Also, yeah, someone brought up Demon Hunter and August Burns Red, and although it was like, I don't know where that whole myth came from, like, or rather that these guys were it was just leftism, like top to bottom. I was like, I'm not so sure about that. You know what I mean? Definitely not when I was playing and coming up in the scene, and definitely not when you looked at the top dogs. A lot of those, well, let's say when I say top dogs, I'm seeing the most successful guys that were part of this metalcore genre. They were very much, a lot of them were unapologetically fucking, Christian. They had no problem rocking it on a sleeve.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let me go here real quick. I know I missed a couple. It says, get a role character, then call Razor to write. Says student of God with a 2. Okay. We got my man JP with a 10. Says, I've long touted that Japanese model anthology comic magazines that later get collected in a bookshelf friendly trades for each story as an angle more companies should explore. Your thoughts? Well, I'll give you my position. I do think that there's obviously more economic economically literate ways to get that book or that story to that audience, and while also having it benefit the creatives that are part of that process. I think that, it's no need to get so fucking into like the one size fits all kind of approach, which I think that's what got the industry in a fucking bind, because everybody thought this is the way to put out a comic book or comic books per se.
Monthly only. And
Yeah.
God, then they got into weekly. Like, bro, you are not 2000 AD. You cannot get away with that shit.
Yeah.
They were just too stubborn. And when Stan Lee, name a person more important in 20th century American comics than Stan Lee, when Stan Lee is literally shouting, pump the brakes, we got to look at graphic novels, we got to look at different formats, maybe more infrequent releases, but hype them up more like movie releases. When he can say that and basically get ignored by the industry at large, dude, you're doing it to yourself at that point. Your industry is doing it to itself.
Yeah. Agreed. 100%. 100%. We have Barb Rogers, what's up, with a $5 super sticker. I appreciate that. I didn't see what the actual sticker was, unfortunately. We have Tamani with a 5, says, a question for Razörfist: do you regard Lacuna Coil and Nightwish as metal? If no,
like gothic metal, symphonic metal, whatever, something like that.
Okay, so there's your definition. It says, thanks goes to the Badlands contributor number 2000 or 2900.
Hey, right on.
Yeah, shout out. We have True Vintage with a 5, says, we the Ripper fans will crash your site and you will and make you into a billionaire, whether you want to be or not. All right, well, I'll accept it, but you're not I can't allow it. Maybe that's my next, speaking of Alvin and the Chipmunks, maybe we get some of those steroid chipmunks to help the hamster.
He's gonna start up with the Ultimate Warrior WrestleMania Crash the Plane promo. Assume the controls, Ripper. Okay.
I'm actually game for that. Maybe we can get some promotional items.
There we go.
Bullet Shepherd with a 10 says, Hellraiser and Ripper intensely enjoying Isom 2 interrogatively. Looking forward to Ghost Razor. Fellow long times out fan. Super underrated. He says, what the hell is in my throat? Appreciate that. Who else? Raleigh with it just became a YouTube member. We also have Crit Nature says, Razorfist, what's your opinion on Testament?
The Jesus rock stylings of Testament. I love Testament. I think they're a great band. I really like Shovelhead and Kill Machine from back in the day. It's really
good. Okay. We got a 5 from Life is Good. Well, excuse me. Life is Good with a 5. Said that backwards. I appreciate that $5 sale the other day. Now I can get down and read that bad boy like I'm 10 years old again. Appreciate that. Yep. Shout out to everybody that was part of that. I didn't get a chance to thank you all. We did have a $5 sale for, if you missed out on it, Isom 1 will probably be never that fucking cheap again. We did a $5 sale for 48 hours to get into our next batch of mass prints. And yeah, there you go. It was only $5. Now it's at its permanent price point. So yeah, if you got in, I appreciate you. We had literally thousands of books went out then, and other teams working hard to get those out to you all. They might have already gotten them all out. 32 flavors of Nick Wise with a 2 Peter Steele from Carnivore and Typo was based. A lot of based, if you want to call it, like creatives that were in like these metal scenes. Don't let these people gaslight you into thinking that they own it. Leftists own it. That's bullshit. Chuck Flea with a 2 says, not a metalhead, but crap is happening in rap. Well, that's
big time, dude. Big time. I remember. Dude, I remember running into. I did a signing for Public Enemy.
Oh, hell yeah!
It was right before Professor Griff got canceled again.
There you go.
Yeah, it was terrible, man. Flavor Flav was awesome though.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, we had like our first team that we worked with and helped with some booking management actually had managed Public Enemy at the time, so it was pretty.
They did a comic back in the day.
Yeah,
and that was why I worked the signing. They had just come out with the Public Enemy comic in it was 06 or something like that.
Yep. Jose with a 5 says, hey, Razorfist, do you think the culture shift now is why top comic creators do not want to work with DC and Marvel? Example, Rick Remender turning them down. He said.
Rick Remender doing that doesn't surprise me. I've met him. He's actually kind of cool back in the day. But I'm not super surprised. I think it also probably has to do with page rate. I bet the amount they're paying you has fallen a lot.
100%. I can speak to that. They're not. This is funny why people like Chuck would be a downgrade working with us. I'm like, they can't afford to fucking pay for Chuck.
Man, dude, he's on the same video site I am, unauthorized, right? He does great videos over there where he just kind of talks philosophy of comics or whatever. I bet you he makes more money there some months than he did on comics.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And just doing videos.
Yeah, absolutely. Like he's commanding. He's obviously in a position to do that. He's commanding way more than those guys are willing to, give him probably. And it's not worth it. Like when you can work with people that, look, when you're fucking Chuck Dixon, you can call your own shots. That's just how it works. It's like, fuck, I work with whoever the fuck I want. I'm not that desperate. But yeah, like one of the things that I pride myself here, or pride myself with here at the Riververse is making sure these guys get paid well and making sure they get paid on time. And, Chuck spoke about what, our business relationship. Day submits the goddamn script. If I go through it, get it, bam, he's got his money. It's that simple. That's just not how those guys operate. So, I think one of the things that gets slept on with what we're able to do with Iron Age and everything is, look, for you guys that have had an issue with the economics of this industry, you're in a position to correct them, right? Mm-hmm. I know people look at me and they point to like the woke shit, but that wasn't the only problem it was that I had, right? Just bad general content wasn't it. I looked at it like, wow, why is there a thing that such as the Hero Initiative? Why does that have to be a thing? Why are there pissy people that have been able to produce some of the greatest fucking comic book material in our lifetimes and before? Why are they broke? Like, to me, that I don't get it, right? So I look at it like there's a way to correct that,
dude. That doesn't get reported on enough. The reason the Hero Initiative happened is because of some real tragic stories that came out for years and years that didn't get reported. Like, look into what happened with Wally fucking Wood, like one of the most legendary artists in EC Comics. He was one of the earliest artists of Daredevil. He winds up committing suicide. Like, dude, Dave Cockrum, like one of the most important X-Men artists, maybe the most important X-Men artist ever, and fucking has to I think he had one of his legs amputated, had horrible problems with diabetes, had no money. Hero Initiative basically paid his medical bills at the end. Like, dude, there's no security in that, and Marvel and DC very much pop you and drop you. We used to be big on the Hero Initiative donations at the comic shop I used to work at.
Yeah, and I look at that and I see how it is, and I'm like, well, I want to fix that type of shit. Like, what can I make, bake into this company that maybe ensure that, as that brand, or if they created a character or something, they're able to eat on the other side of it if it blows up. And I just never made sense. But to the point is, that's an economic issue that you can correct, right? If you are doing things your own way. And that's what I love about being in the position that we're in. It's like, I get to, I know what he commands. I can bake, so we still make it profitable, right? We're not just giving fucking money away, right? We can make this very, very profitable, but it also benefits the creatives that are part of it. So don't sleep on that as why it's so important. That something like the Iron Age exists. I would argue that that's probably one of the more important parts. I Drive Pro with a 10 says we need a shirt with Jess Isom's truck on it, or a stairwell with a confused Buster Baxter rabbit sitting at the top, or the Eric sketch. So this whole stairwell thing, I don't know if you know, it's some a critic of mine, let's just say that, was pointing out that I guess he had got confused by the color of a truck, as well as some stairs, and how they was, just it was just nitpicking stuff. It was like he was confused by that. So that's where that story kind of came. So now we kind of run with it, like, maybe we put some stairs on a fucking shirt or something. I'm game for that. I Drive Pro. Vagabundo Devon with a 5-star. Also have that Public Enemy comic. Also seen him in concert. Flavor Flav is also dope drummer. Is a dope drummer and piano player if you ever see him.
Dude, you want to know how cool that motherfucker is? We do this signing, And the freaking line for this signing is around the store and down the block, right?
Yeah.
They know as soon as they show up, because they have a show to play afterward, they know that they're not going to be able to get to everybody. So as soon as they see this big fuck off line, they're like, oh no. And nobody else in the group does anything. Flavor Flav decides, well, shit. He goes down one person at a time, down the whole line, just shaking hands, kissing babies, introducing himself, sometimes signing stuff, just to make sure that no matter what, every single person in the line gets seen. That's awesome. Flavor Flav right there. Awesome. Seriously cool dude. And then I guess their show gets canceled afterward for some reason, something to do with fire code or something. So they come back, right? They come back to the store and they just hold an impromptu set in the middle of the street in this in downtown Phoenix. Yikes. And people are hearing, because the speakers are so fucking loud, they're hearing Public Enemy just blare out. And so people start coming around from like the neighborhood and the surrounding. It was like Night of the Living Dead. Everyone's like, is this fucking, people are literally walking up like, is this fucking Public Enemy just playing in the middle of the street? What the shit is this? A music video? Oh, man, it was awesome. Nice. It was amazing. And it was free. They didn't charge anyone to do it. They just did it right there in the middle of the street. Because what the fuck?
That's fucking sick. That's fucking sick.
Amazing.
We got Jack Bacon with a 5 says, what do you think about the name The Rusted Age to refer to the modern mainstream? They are rusted. But I guess there's more usefulness in rust. Rust at least, looks cool on furniture and shit. Existing alongside the Independence Iron Age. The Rusted Age, is that what we're calling them? I don't know. I can run with that thing. I feel like rust is just far more useful though.
Right.
So yeah. Joe Music with a 10 says, shout out to Jen and Sylvia Soska. Big shout out to them. Festival of the Living Dead Fall and Yaira Winter. Yes, yeah. Big shout out to the upcoming artists, writers for Yaira. You guys check them out. Jen and Sylvia, they're very much into like the horror stuff and all that. So awesome.
I'm excited to see as you expand in other genres and shit, getting to do different stuff and like test the market on, okay, is there people looking out for horror here? Is there people looking out for fantasy? I love that shit. I love it because it's the thing Marvel and DC aren't doing.
Yep, true.
DC has had one Western in the last 10, 15 years, and it's Jonah Hex. And the only reason for that is because Jonah Hex has crossed over with Batman as well. Right. They never try this shit.
Yeah. Yeah. The possibilities are fucking just endless, man. It's just endless. And that's what really excites me. Joe Music also says with a 2, Razor Force. I appreciate that. Okay. I've been holding everybody up way too long. I said I was only going to do an hour and a half. We're almost at the 2-hour mark. Holy shit. Right. Yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, man, Razorfist, what else? I mean, plug every fucking thing, man, it is that you're doing. You're doing everything. You're gaming. You got Goes to the Badlands. Just plug all that shit, man.
Yeah, at the Rageaholic on YouTube, at Razorfist with a 0 on Twitter. And of course, Goes to the Badlands going to be launching this winter. When that comes out, you're going to have an opportunity to get, one of these bad boys here.
There you go.
And you'll have an opportunity to get a poster, whatever. If you contributed to the campaign, you'll get all that awesome stuff anyways. And a big deluxe color version of the book. I personally prefer the black and white. I think it looks cooler, but whatever. I mean, I live in black and white. What the fuck? So if you donated to that or whatever, if you ordered rather, you'll definitely get that, but it will be available this winter at launch. So you'll be able to get it through our publisher, which is looking like it's going to be Archaven, same guys who work with Chuck Dixon, and the same guys who published Night Vale books 1 and 2, which by the way are available, nightvalenovels.com. If you want to see kind of a preview of George's artwork, kind of collaborating with me, he did all the artwork for Death Mask, and they're absolutely gorgeous. Highly, highly recommend. Actually, it's about half and half. Half of the book is him, half is me. I do art as well. You're going to get to see some of my art in Ghost of the Badlands. But regardless, that's pretty much all I got going. And then of course, Night Vale 3 will be coming shortly thereafter, I would imagine, maybe between now and Ghost of the Badlands 2. So
there you go. There you go. Well, again, I appreciate you stopping by, man. We'll do this more often, man, because we got a lot of crossover in audiences and just so much of this stuff you and I are already talking about. So I think it just makes sense. The audience loves it, and that's what it's about. So
right on, dude.
Hell yeah. Well,
Happy to have you on my own channel anytime, dude.
You know to hit me up, man. I'm there. Well, just let me know whenever you want to do it, man. But yeah, big shout out to everybody. Appreciate all y'all that came through. This is going to remain live, so if you guys are still watching it and getting caught up, you can still watch this after the fact. So don't worry about that. But man, big shout out to all of y'all joining us. I don't know what gonna be my next stream. I have no fucking actually I lied. Tomorrow, as Peel versus Babyface at 1:30ish, I believe we're gonna be streaming, and we're gonna be shooting the shit, talking comics and all that. So be on the lookout for that. Appreciate each and every one of you guys. I can't say that enough. But until next time, y'all be easy, and yeah, peace out.
Godspeed.